Coming to you from UBN Studios in Burbank, California. You're listening to the Unsugar-Coated Podcast with your hosts, Ali Alanias and Alexandra Checa.
Hello, everybody. Another season. This is actually the season finale of Unsugar-Coated Media. This is Alia.
This is Alex.
And we hope...
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. We love the love and support. It's so amazing. We hope that you've been enjoying our season thus far. But today we have something really exciting to share with you. But first of all, how was your week, Alex?
My week was amazing. Mine's amazing. But why don't you tell me a little bit about your week?
Well, this is kind of from last week, but it's still bled into this week. It's kind of something that I really want to talk about. I think that this is an episode that's very, this issue is something we need to be addressing. So I had sent you a report that was put out by Miami Herald, and it was a Texas mom caught on video whipping her 7-year-old son and making him apologize to his teacher. She was actually arrested during a Child Protective Services hearing. Now, since then, this woman has had 4 of her children removed. And in court, she told the judge that she didn't want her son to be a black man dead in the streets. Mm-hmm. And what was very interesting for this article when I came across it was that the week before, I had a little situation in our own home. I am a mother of 4, ranging from 22, almost 23, I'm going to be a grandmother, and down to 3 years old. I have a 14 and a 12-year-old. 12-year-old comes to me recently and says, "Mommy, I need support. I want to go to a therapist." And me being the mom that I am today, not like the parents I had, I'm like, of course, darling, you feel the need to have a safe space to talk. Some things, even though you talk to me a lot, I get it that there's some things you can't tell me. So you know what? I'm going to support you. I'm going to reach out to our healthcare provider, and we're going to get you a therapy appointment, which we did. And I took her to the therapy appointment, talked to this therapist for like 10 minutes. He talked to my daughter for like 20 minutes because it was an intake meeting. And the next day, social services showed up on my doorstep wanting to talk to me about how I disciplined my kid. And apparently there was an incident, which my daughter was like, that wasn't a big deal. But it turns out that the social services person kept saying, the therapist, not social services. The therapist who kept telling her, no, that's abuse. And I was like, and so the social...
Well, what did you do that was so bad?
Well, my daughter, I buy her things. And I grew up in an era where my mom bought me clothes twice a year, once at winter and then before school started. Okay, we didn't get shopping sprees year round. That was just not the world I lived in. But with my daughter, I've tried to really be there and, kind of like take her shopping. And so I had bought her several stuff. And I came into her room and it was all over the floor. I mean, it was a pigsty. And while I'm not like a super neat freak, I do expect my kids to take care of the things that I get them because I'm spending this money, I'm spending this time. And she started yelling at me. She started talking back and she was getting all haughty, feisty. And I picked up one of the towels and I smacked her. I was like, "Don't talk to me like that. I'm your mother. You will not talk to me like that." And of course she didn't like it, but it all, and I was like, if you press me, I tell my kids, if you're you feel froggish, leap, but just know that you're gonna get met with some discipline because I do believe in discipline personally. So what I was dealing with was a social worker coming in and telling me things like, well, you can't hit your children, and I'm like, I'm not beating my children, but I am allowed to discipline them. And we, once I found out that it was really the therapist who had really pushed this. It wasn't my daughter. First, I thought my daughter had complained on me. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, you think that was bad? Just wait. No, I didn't actually tell her that, but that's what I would have been told. I mean, I remember social service coming to my house when I was a kid. And I just got the look like, you think you got beat before. Wait till these people leave. You're really going to get your butt whooped.
Good times.
Yeah, good times. But I don't abuse my children. I do expect them. I want them to grow up to be good people. I want them to have respect for people. I want them to understand consequences and boundaries. And I feel very frustrated in a system. I read this woman who, very fairly, I mean, and by the way, let's go back 5 years when the woman, another black woman, who caught her son throwing rocks at in protest, and she whooped the heck out of that boy.
In front of everybody, too.
And it was even caught on the news. People were hailing her. The news was like, we want to find this mother. And she was named Mom of the Year in Baltimore. Wait. So why is that woman okay? Because I don't get it. When I told the social worker, if my daughter is being disrespectful and rude as her caretaker, she's going to get her butt whooped.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't mean she's going to come away black and blue, but she's going to realize that I'm the boss and she is the child. And I read this story about this mom, and I'm thinking she's got her children moved, and she spanked her son. I mean, the incident apparently is laid out where she came to the school. He had been, she came in. She was poor. She was upset because she'd been called down to the school. I know what it's like to get a call from a parent's school. It's annoying. And because you want your kid to be there, learn, be respectful. And so he was 7. She went down and he just said, "We don't do this." And she spanked him, turned him around, and his little tears were coming down and was like, "Say sorry to the teacher." To which he did. But apparently the school was like, "We don't condone this behavior. This is a problem. We don't spank our kids." And I'm sorry, I don't agree with that, because you have so many people complaining that kids are growing up more disrespectful. I mean, I've seen kids spit in their parents' face, and I got to tell you, never in my world would that happen.
Yeah.
Never with my kids would that happen. This is. I mean, look, you don't have kids. How do you feel if I tell you you're coming into a world where your children don't belong to you? And I say this because your children don't belong to you. If I'm American citizen, I am an American citizen. No, I am an American citizen. But my children, if somebody else feels I'm being abusive to them, even if I'm not, they can take them away. 700,000 cases are referred to social services each year for child protective services. How many of those are bogus like this? I mean, I'm sorry, mine is bogus.
Yeah,
mine is bogus. That time that kids need to really be the ones really experiencing abuse, how are those people ever going to get to them if these therapists and people like that are actually punishing or trying to interfere with parents who are really just actually allowed and disciplining their kids? What do you think? I mean, how does that make you feel?
Listen, all I'm going to say about this is that I am very glad my mother whipped my butt when she did.
Amen.
I'm glad. And she didn't abuse me. Like, she didn't, like you say, she didn't leave me all bruised up and black and purple and stuff. But, when I was being a little punk, she
put you in check.
She did put me in check, and I never did that again.
Right, because it taught
That's
you.
why I'm not entitled or like a little punk now, but I'm actually glad for the times that she did. Honestly.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I got my butt whooped as a kid, but I can honestly say I'm so glad that I do. I mean, we laugh at the experiences now, right?
Yeah.
Didn't laugh at it at 7, 8, 9, 10.
It hurt.
But but that was the other thing. The social worker was like, "Well, it's demeaning." I'm like, demeaning? No, what's demeaning is growing up and not being able to keep a job or losing it because you don't know how to interact with people or understand that there are boundaries and ways you should treat people. That is what's demeaning. Being homeless is demeaning. Being told by your parent or disciplined to not do certain things, that's not demeaning. I mean, our feelings get hurt, and life is going to hurt your feelings a lot more than something that I say to my children, like in that sense, at least for me personally. Yeah. And I'm a tough mom. I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. Let me just explain to you guys. My children have amazing stories of their butts getting whooped for getting out of line. And we laugh about them now. We do. Oh, Mom, remember that one time? It's like, oh, yeah, I did do that. Well, are you going to do it again? Nope. Okay.
No, ma'am.
And just in case social services is listening to this, that doesn't mean I'm committing abuse. So I'm honestly, for this woman, for this mother who was really, like she talks about, especially she's like, he doesn't have a father. So she's raising both kids, right? I mean, there just has to be a line. And I feel that therapists and people working in those industries need to be just very careful. I mean, it was a very horrible experience for me to go through.
I would think so. I mean, just doing your normal life and then the social workers at your doorstep.
And people show up and then start questioning and then like, oh, well, this wouldn't be happening if you were such a great parent. And I was like, no, I actually, my kids were like, please, Mom, be quiet. You're arguing with the social worker, Mom. Please be quiet. I was like, I'm not arguing, but I'm very confident in my parenting. Yeah. And I'm not going to have someone sit here and like tell me that I'm sure when they know nothing about it.
I'm sure you're not the only one who feels like this.
No, I mean, I hope that I'm not. That's why I'm sharing. Look, nobody wants to admit that social services came and showed up on your door. There are a million people that could take this. Oh, did they now? Well, Alia, what are you doing? I'm raising my kids. That's what I am doing. And so I say that because I know I'm not the only one. With their 700,000 freaking cases getting reported a year, I know I'm not the only one. And it's just, this whole no spanking, I don't understand it. What do you want us to do with kids that, like, especially now, at least when you were younger, you had days when if you lived on a farm with your family, you only went to school till like 2nd grade. And then you stinking had to go work, right? We don't even have that. So I'm not raising spoiled entitled children. No, please. And I hope no one else will.
You're not.
So speaking of moms, we're going to be bringing an amazing guest on today. And she's not my mom, but she's still an amazing Everybody, Nazanin Nour is an actress and writer born right outside of the nation's capital to a traditional Persian family. An early entertainment junkie, her love of the stage and arts started early in life, and it included a passion for blending humor with real-life situations. After satisfying the Persian family requirement of getting a BA in government and international politics with a double major in communications and a minor in media criticism, she eventually landed in Los Angeles, where she is now showing the world what she is made of. Actress for TV and film, including the miniseries Madame Secretary. She recently co-wrote a feature comedy film, Bad Status, which blends the serious topic of deportation and humor. When she isn't on set, you can find her as a judge on Persia's Got Talent and on various social media platforms, known for her accents, beauty, hilarious, and intelligent personality. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nazanin Nour.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Lively audience. Thanks for having me, ladies. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I've had a girl crush on you forever. I just have to say that, like, up front, out the gate.
That's really sweet.
No, I mean that.
I appreciate it. I'm crushing right back. And I like your love earrings.
You like older women, right? No kidding.
You say you're into older women.
You're not an older woman. So.
Well, okay. So you have, first of all, does Persia really have talent?
It has so much talent you would not even believe. Yes. I think our people in general are like, I mean, there's talent everywhere, but I feel like our people come from a culture of like a rich history, thousands of years, plus poetry and music are an integral part of our culture and nation, and like it's like the fabric of all of our family gatherings and holidays and celebrations. So I feel like it's just kind of ingrained in everybody to have some sort of something to offer. But yes, there's a lot of talent.
So so you were born just outside of Washington, D.C. Yeah. You know, you've had, I want you to share with our audience what brought you to L.A. and like what you've been up to.
Yeah, I was born in Arlington, so right outside of DC, and that's where I grew up. I went to George Mason University, and then I moved to New York a few years after. I still went into law, so I was trying to use my degree, and I always had that passion and love of making people laugh and performing, so I kind of did that as a hobby with my friends, or like, you know, theater class, or, you know, community theater, stuff like that. And then I was like, you know what, I need a change. I'm gonna go move to New York City and see what I can do there. And I was working for a corporate litigation firm by night. So from 4 p.m. to midnight, I was doing legal work. And then the days I was spending trying to find auditions for myself because I didn't have representation yet. So I finally, through an ex-boyfriend actually, so thanks to him, shout out to him, I got a agent, because it was a contact he had. Yeah. One good thing he did for me. And I started from there. So through that representation, I started actually getting network television auditions. Amazing. And that's how I landed my first role, which is a miniseries called Political Animals. And then, you know, from there, I just was doing, I had to quit law. It was like, I can't do this cushy salary job anymore because it's interfering with all the other things that I'm trying to pursue. It was legitimately like having two separate careers. Yeah. And so I gave that up and I started doing the day job actor thing. I was a personal trainer. I was a server. I did a lot of things. I tutored kids. And then from there, I had booked a couple things. And then I decided I want to make the move to LA. Sorry, I have something stuck on my lip gloss. And that was always going to be the big move because LA is the bigger market. So you kind of like have to come out here. And so I did. And I booked a couple other things out here. And then I just kept hustling. I started putting out my own content. And then a good friend of mine who I actually went to college with, her name is Sharzad Davani, and she has been a first AD on feature films in Hollywood for many years. And we decided to co-write this film together. And then that project kind of started taking off. So that led me to where I am now. And the social media presence that I created for myself was what got me noticed by people at Persia's Got Talent to come in and meet with them and see if we could all work together for that show. So it all kind of happened
Yeah.
in the last few
Well,
months.
you
Wow.
have such an amazing, and so you have what I think is what I personally relate is you're this beautiful, stunning woman.
Oh, thank you.
And yet, and yet, and I shouldn't say but you're not afraid to be goofy.
And also,
I know,
despite of that,
horrible. Fail on that one. You're not afraid to be authentically goofy, and I love that because,
you.
like, I have to share with you. So, in my previous marriage, I was never goofy because I was always afraid that my ex-husband would make fun of me, and I just couldn't. And now I'm goofy. My ex-husband, I don't care what he thinks, but my current husband, of course, he sees me be goofy, and he'll give me this look like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I am being me, and I'm okay with that. And if you don't like it, I don't care." But thankfully he likes it. But I mean, like, it takes a lot. Like, look, because as a beautiful woman, have they ever expected you? Has there ever been an expectation for you to act a certain way?
Well, thank you for putting me in the beautiful woman category. I don't know if there's, I feel like there's expectations of me in general because of my culture.
Right.
So, Iranian girls are, we're supposed to be very put together, sophisticated. You don't go goof around and be like the clown of the party.
Right.
It's like not a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, education is very important in our culture too, which is, I think it's very important as well. So
Yeah.
I, wanted to make sure
Right.
that I did that and continue to keep myself up to date on things. But I feel like it's just not in our culture, for me to have pursued comedy or be like, I use my body to do physical comedy, and I like to be like that type of a character and personality. And so sometimes that has caused clashes with like my mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Of
Because
course.
she's like, can you stop being a clown? Can you stop making people laugh? And I was like, but that's what I like to do. That's like that makes me feel good. And it makes me feel like that's kind of what I'm giving back to other people, of like shining some sort of light in life when things are not great, because I know that that's how I, like, when I'm down or when I feel whatever, I like to go watch stand-up comedy. I watch it live or just anything funny. So yeah, there's like this, and I feel like maybe I've heard before people meet me or talk to me in person that they assume that I'm a certain way just because of the way I might carry myself.
Sure.
But it's like, if I don't know you yet,
Right,
then
right.
I'm not going to immediately,
Right.
be goofy. But if I am cool with you and I tease you, that is how I show people I like them, I love them, I want to be around them. If I'm very like prim and proper, it means I'm not very comfortable around you, actually.
I'm actually the exact same.
Yes, like you feel like, well, then I guess I have to put my guard up right now,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So
yeah.
yes. So I have, to answer your question, there are certain expectations, I feel like, but I think I crushed them pretty quickly.
When we had EmpowerCon, I shared with you, we had the first Afghani female comic.
Yes.
And it was incredible. I loved her. Nilab Sarabi is her name. And she's actually gotten a lot of heat for being trying to make jokes about political issues that other people just take, and you're a multicultural person,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
And you embrace that. How do you feel, when you're going out there and you're doing all of this, like you're going for gigs, does having a certain look help you get, are you in the diverse role category?
Yeah, I will say that it's interesting because almost the overwhelming majority of Iranians that I meet in person are shocked when I speak Farsi to them. They're like, oh my God, you're Iranian? Right? You don't even look it. And I'm like, yeah, I get that all the time. But other people who meet me are like immediately know that I'm Middle Eastern or something.
Sure.
But I think it works. Yes, I have like an ethnically ambiguous look, I would say,
Right.
because like when I was in Italy with my family, people assumed I was Italian. When I was in
Right.
Spain, people assume I'm Spanish. So it works in my benefit. I will say the last few years, definitely the auditions that I get called in for range from just straight up Caucasian to Middle Eastern to some sort of Spanish speaking country as
Right.
my background. So I think it has worked in my favor. And I will say there was a couple times where the casting has gotten back to my agents and be like, you know what, we just don't think she looks Iranian enough. And I'm like, how are you telling me that I don't
my
look Iranian
gosh.
enough? Like,
Right.
who is the judge of that? So that's been
Yeah.
kind of an odd experience too.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. Well, so do you feel that, like, by doing this and doing what you're doing, that you represent the little girl out there that's like, I'm a Persian little girl and maybe I can go up and do this? do you feel
I
that?
hope that I can represent my people that way, but because I know that growing up, I have very distinct memories of being at grocery stores and watching all my favorite shows and not seeing myself represented.
Right.
And knowing that my name was different, I spoke a different language, I didn't really see that represented. And I think it's so important. As you get older, you really understand the importance of diversity and representation,
Yeah.
Yes.
how it really does matter, because I sometimes think in my subconscious, maybe that's why I didn't pursue the arts full-time or as a career earlier in my life, because I didn't think it might have been possible.
Sure.
And then as I started seeing other people that look like me, we had some Iranian actors and comedians that started getting recognition in the last decade. I was like, oh, okay, I can do it. And then one of, Saturday Night Live is probably my all-time favorite show.
course.
Right.
And when they got their first Iranian-American cast member, Nassim Pedrad, I just was so ecstatic and proud. I was like, oh my God, there's a funny Iranian girl doing stuff on TV. This is cool. It's
Right.
like, it can happen, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, I think I hope that I can be that for other people, because I know that there's a lot of performers that have been that for me and still are that for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be in SNL sometime.
I would love to be a host, actually. I feel like I don't know. I appreciate that. I still think about it like, okay, should I go try to do that? It's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
The whole process is extremely difficult, but I mean, it's a dream to at least be able to host one day.
Sure.
So I'm going to put that out into the universe.
got it.
that
It's
I
out
will
there.
It
host.
is hard, but you don't seem to be the kind of girl who gets scared easily.
No,
You're
I
ready.
think-
You're up
Yeah,
for a
I can
challenge.
tell that. I can
Oh
tell
my gosh.
already.
I'm ready.
Like you, I love one of the things that you did. You don't know how many times I've been somewhere. This is just to give you, this is what happens with your stuff. People are out there, oh my gosh, you have to see this. It's so funny. Here, go watch. It's like, that's what I do with my family on the White House on.
Oh, that's so sweet
Oh
of
my
you.
God. And,
I appreciate that.
Melania,
Melania,
too.
yes.
You guys
I love
have
Melania.
to go on,
Yes.
on her Instagram and watch the videos. They're so
Melania
fun.
is
I
fun.
think that, but like SNL, so they're very known to drive humor and coincide the political issues and make it something that, haha. How is that something that you relate to? Is that why you're kind of, because you're not doing anything negative. You're not doing anything negative when you do your political videos, in my opinion. You're
Right.
merely just making light of something. But
Yes.
how does, for the people who are like, well, why do we need to make fun of political issues? What do you say?
Oh, talking about political issues. Yeah. I feel like you have to call out the hypocrisy, and that's part of the fun and importance and necessity of satire.
Right.
Because
Yes.
you can open up people's eyes in a different way. Because if you just come in and you try to change somebody, you need to vote this way because people shut down.
Sure.
You start doing it through
On
some
anything.
jokes and some sarcasm and satire
Yeah.
and humor, they might open up a little bit more. At
Right.
least be able. I've seen people on both sides
Sure.
be able to laugh at making fun of their own party, their own beliefs, things
I
like
laugh
that.
at anything
That's
that's funny.
healthy.
I don't really
Yeah.
care. It doesn't offend me. It's like, and I think sometimes what I see is like, just seeing how ridiculous it is makes you kind of step back and say,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
maybe.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
think
huh,
about it
let's
that
see.
way. You're
Yeah.
right. We do that as well on our side.
Right. And I say that because a
of
lot of people give SNL stuff like, it's so horrible these days. I'm like,
I think
is
it's
it? I think
fantastic.
it's still fantastic. I
too.
think it's a show that's been around for how many years? You can't, even if you have
40s,
some
yeah.
lulls, it doesn't matter if you're still on the air after that long. Like,
Well, it's like a marriage. Marriage isn't going to always be like, woo.
Oh,
So
amen.
SNL's like that. And Weekend Update is crucial because that is where I also got my love of combining politics and humor, was watching that growing up. Because I remember during the week being with my parents, my family, whoever would come over, and you listen to the adults talk, you see the actual issues on the real news.
Right.
And then on Saturday nights, you'd see, oh, that's that thing that they were talking
Right.
about.
Yeah.
And oh, that's funny. And then my brain started, I think that's how my brain started actually combining the two things and liking that. And then liking The Daily Show and Colbert and now Hassan Minaj, Patriot Samantha Bee,
Sure.
people like that. Those
Sure.
are like the people I like to watch a lot.
I love
think
it. I think it's cool. One of your other favorite ones that you did though was that I love. So you have your Persian mom,
I do have the
and I
Persian
love
mom.
her because I have an Arab mom version for my kids. No
They
joke.
have very many similarities.
Your mom, my mom, we
You
get
know,
along
it's funny
very good.
because those moms, I get message from a lot of immigrant children that they relate. So it's like not just a Persian thing. It's
Yeah.
like Filipino moms or, you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
Hispanic
Hispanic
moms.
moms.
It definitely,
every
100%.
yeah.
And I want to make this very public. I'm going to say this as many times as I can. It's not supposed to be my mom.
Right.
It's an amalgamation of moms and aunts and grandmothers that I have grown up with.
Yes.
And it's an extremely exaggerated, hyperbolic version, but there is truth in there for sure. I just exaggerate it.
There's
Exactly.
a reason why people connect
Yeah.
with that.
Right.
True.
Because my mom actually didn't have an accent at
yeah.
all because my mom was American. But my grandmother on my dad's side, she was the one who had the accent. So
Yeah.
it was like I'm always
Yeah.
imitating her. But and she didn't. And that's the thing, mine didn't hardly speak English. So it
Yeah.
was like she really didn't even do all that. It was just like you got these little break-in points.
Little
But-
snippets.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
then I also had 2 uncles that were professional comedians. Actually, 3 uncles that were professional comedians. And 2 of
wow.
them were musicians. So I like grew up like just digging all of that. So I
Arts
love
in
what
your veins.
Can you tell your fans to go listen to this podcast in your Persian mom accent?
Yeah, it's you must go listen to this beautiful podcast with Alex and Alia, and there's going to be lots of humor, lots of things that will make you think, make you go, lots of information for girls, boys, everything, and I really think you guys will enjoy it if you listen to it because I know I sure am, probably because I am the guest, but it's good regardless of who is here. These 2 ladies are fantastic. Please listen.
And
on
it will be
Sugar
the Forever
Culture.
Goodbye. She has
Oh
the other
my
one, the Forever
God.
Goodbye. I do that. Every time I take too long with my best friend, we'll say, okay, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I
wait,
forgot to
yeah.
tell
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is the
And you keep going and going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just never ends. But I love how you do that in video form and just like you said, that exaggerated, hilarious. And I'm like, that's what we do. That's exactly.
You know, and I
love
get
this.
messages too from you like, it's not like this. You don't know the culture. I'm like, it's comedy.
Yeah.
I
Loosen
know I'm
up a little bit.
exaggerating.
yeah.
Jesus.
So, I mean, okay. So not to be, you're a young, beautiful woman.
Oh, thank you.
How young are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Probably not as young as you think.
Well,
So I'll leave it to that.
That's a loaded question, right? there. You know what? Let me. You can respond if you
I was
want
going to say, I mean, I'll tell you that casting still calls me in for like late 20s to early 30s. So I'll leave that.
well, and
For
you
where
know
it
what?
is.
That's a great response.
Again, I'm always the oldest one in the room these days. So it's like I'm 44.
right.
You're only as old as you think you are.
Exactly.
And and I truly believe this. Like society tells you, oh, by this age, by this age, by this age. And then I
Yes.
look at Jennifer Lopez, who has always looked better than me.
Right.
And is older than me. So, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually meditate. Okay, I'm going to ask your things that you do to help keep you motivated
Okay.
and like,
Yeah.
I meditate. I like literally sit in my bed and like just zone out everything and like,
How do you do that? For how long?
as long as I can.
It's so difficult.
before that
1
time
minute
comes
and
where it's
30
like
seconds.
Yeah.
stop not focusing.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that where you're trying to meditate and then you start thinking about something else and you're like, okay, stop that.
Now I've tried to
Focus.
meditate and I've gone to sleep for 5 hours.
Oh, see.
That's happened
that
many
means you're a
times.
good meditator.
I'm like, oh, goodbye, world.
You know what you're doing. I try when I wake up, I try to every morning not look at my phone the first thing because that immediately starts stressing you out. You're like, oh my God, I have 90
Right.
messages. What am I going to do? But I sit there and I verbally out loud say things I'm thankful for. So I'm thankful that I wake up. I start with that. I'm thankful that my body works, that I have all my senses, anything that, food in my refrigerator, the bed I'm sleeping in. And then I start going to specifics about the opportunities coming my way, the job I just booked, my family, this and that. I get to go see my parents next week. I just say everything so that I immediately have a sense of like, oh, I have so many good things, knock on wood, that I can think about,
Yeah.
So that starts me off on the right foot. I set intentions. I try to make lists because then that makes me feel accomplished, and it helps me remember things, that I need to do or take care
Yeah.
of. And then I try to always surround myself with people that are like-minded. And I think one thing that happened to me in the last 8 years of my life is something I do, and it gets easier and easier and easier. And I think you guys could probably relate. You ladies can probably relate. Is I don't get. You can't cuss on this show, can
You
I?
can.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes. I don't give a fuck what people think, which is great. There's certain things that I will care about. My family, friends, people that are important to me, I will care what your opinion is, but doesn't mean
Right.
I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, I think one of the good things about not becoming this big successful person, I'm still not there. I'm where I want to be, of course. I'm working towards it, but not even having that in my younger years, is that I got to watch how everybody else has handled things. And I've seen firsthand that you could be Oprah and you're still going to have half the people are going to hate you
Yeah.
and half the people are going to love you. So just always I go into life knowing half of this room is not going to like you. Oh, sorry. And, and this microphone doesn't like me. Half this room is not going to like you. Half this room will. And don't worry about the people that don't like you, because I find that if you've been a nice person, you've been a good person, you've been kind to people, if they don't like you, that's something with them that they don't like you.
Yeah.
And that's
100%.
none of your business, and it doesn't matter, and it's okay, and don't worry about it. And I think every year it gets easier and easier to just cancel out that noise and do what you think is right for you.
Right.
And not listen to others. And I think that has helped me stay motivated. Because if I listened to all the people that said, you're getting to this, you're getting to that, you're not this enough, you're not that enough, I would have gone back to law years ago.
Yeah.
I would have been like, yeah, I guess I'm not cut out for this, you know?
No. What has been one of the, I guess in your acting pursuits and what you're doing with film, what's been the worst experience that you've had that you can, or that, you know, or at least one of the highlighting, like, oof, I just really hate that happened, or that was a bad experience?
You mean like on set? Or
on set or in the
auditions?
process of the audition, like, you know.
Very honestly, I'm really lucky that I haven't had a really terrible on-set experience or audition experience. I mean, there's always going to be some people you walk into the room and they're not paying attention, or you know, but I mean, maybe there's been a couple times where someone's made the correlation between, you know, or I've gotten audition notices for things that are only like terrorist related. So it's like a combination of, oh my God, are we seriously still doing this? Like this is the only thing. And it got to a point a couple years ago where I told my representation, I don't even want to see parts like that anymore. I'm not going to go audition for them. And I think the more that our community doesn't audition for those roles, the less they'll write them. So that would be one thing I would say is negative. But thankfully, in the actual entertainment process, I personally haven't dealt with, you know, anything. Doesn't mean that I won't.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I know.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
that's what I just wanted to ask, because I know, like, I mean, you know, there are a lot of women in this industry that say they have these horrible experiences or things get told. But, you know, it's interesting that you said about the terrorists, because that's one of the reasons why I wrote my last book, not to plug it. But I mean, like, in fact, I was just genuinely thinking, because we're adapting it for film, I should get the script to you.
you
Maybe
should
you
plug
play one
it.
of the characters.
I would love to read it.
Because that's exactly what I wanted to do. Take that away. Like, take this, you know.
stigma.
In fact, that's kind of what in the plot. There's an adopted or an orphan in the house trying to prove that the Muslim family are terrorists, because of course they're terrorists.
Of course. Oh, well, I'll tell you. Well, actually, now that you said that, now I think of something, and I don't want to put anyone on blast, but I was on a set recently, and I will say that I was talking to one of the gentlemen on the crew, and I know he was trying to connect with me, so I know his intentions were good. But he was like, "Oh, so you're Iranian?" I said, "Yes." So you speak Farsi? I said, "I do." He said, "Well, I have a friend, and he's a former military, and he was an interrogator." I was like, "Oh," and he was like, "Well, you know, he speaks a lot of languages, and I think Farsi is one of them." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he was like, "Yeah, he interrogated terrorists." And I said, "Well, what kind?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you know, domestic, white nationalist." And he goes, "No, the real kind." And it's like, you know what he meant by the real kind.
No,
And
I
I was like, "Oh, so people that look like, I don't know, like my family, or what do you mean?" And he kind of got flustered. He's like, I just mean the real kind." And then I felt the need to change the subject, because I feel like when you grow up knowing that goes on around you, and you've dealt with people making comments that are maybe more racist, you feel like I've always been that way. Like, I don't want them to feel awkward.
Right.
So I try to change the subject where I shouldn't even feel that way, but I felt like that was the right thing to do.
And I have to ask this, because, you know, my grandfather was very, very white, and the things that would come out of his mouth sometimes I'm like, okay, but but was this person white though?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like very interesting, and that's when I'm like, being multicultural, that's always kind of like the fighting, you know, they don't even see it. They're like you said, he was being completely well intentioned. He didn't mean it.
I know. And
but it's
there's
like
a
in his
difference.
mind there is. That's like, that's why people like me have always been like, no, you can't just the terrorists cannot be just this group. You can't put everybody in this box. Like that's insane. And of course, when I've seen incidents in our society, and they don't want to say that's a white terrorist or a white national terrorist, I'm like, that's not fair. That's not right.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to do that. We're naming this what it is. You know, so yeah.
Well, yeah, especially since the overwhelming majority of the terror attacks in America in the last decade have been by, you know,
not Muslims.
zealots that are
Right.
not
Yeah.
Muslims. And so,
Right.
and it's not to say that of course there are Muslim terrorists. Hello, we all know that.
Right, of
But that
course.
doesn't mean that when you speak about terrorism, it should only
Only
be
about
that
them.
group or that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's also back up for a second because that's a very interesting part of the conversation. And I have to say this because if you know a lot about what happens overseas and you go overseas, you're familiar with like your homeland too. You consider America. I mean, for me, America is, but I mean, like I don't. Have you? There's a documentary out there called "Only the Dead See the End of War."
Oh, I don't know.
Very good. Well, very, very, very good. Very well done by an Australian documentary, and he went into Baghdad, and it's just incredible. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because, you know, there's a lot of things that happen in the Middle East that people will dub that a terrorist attack, but a lot of these people have lost everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to defend, I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm trying to say, but I think that there's just such an education that needs to be done. And there's not always like, you know, like for example, in the documentary, there was these two boys that were just taking through food and medicine, and literally an American GI don't know what happened. They they admitted they don't know what happened, but they shot and killed the 16-year-old without even.
Yeah.
And what happened is that younger brother now hates the Americans,
Yeah.
right? So anything that happens past that, it's in their mind revenge. And when you really look at what war has done in the Middle East, it's not like what we're dealing with here. People just can't fathom what happened. So sometimes what I'm trying to say, you know, and people, you know, don't read into that what it isn't, because at the end of the day, someone who goes and kills other people, that's a horrible thing
wrong.
to do. It's
It's always
wrong.
wrong. And
It's
using
not
religion for
anything.
that is
yes,
wrong.
exactly.
Yeah,
Hiding behind
because-
religion, you're not part of my religion, and no. But at the end of the day, too, though, what one person calls something doesn't, you know, there's just always more to the story.
There's always more to the story, and to piggyback on that, I find that there's a lot of people, as I was growing up, that didn't understand why, for example, and I use Iran just because that's my background, but
Sure.
why Iran and America were always at odds. And I would tell people, listen, this didn't just start from, oh, we Iranians hate America. No, they actually don't. And I've
Right.
been there multiple times, and they actually love Americans. And they speak English in Iran. They teach kids English in school. So, of course, I mean, they want to be a part of, I mean, it's a bigger discussion because there's a regime and, you know, the government is separate
sure.
from the people. But, you know, I implore people to go look, just even go back 50 years on Iran-U.S. relations, and you'll understand why things are the way they are now. I'm not saying what has happened or transpired or
Sure,
what any other
exactly.
countries or governments have done are correct. I'm just saying, so you can understand why we're at the crossroads we're at now, go see what happened 50 years ago, starting in the 50s with the CIA, then the overthrow, then the regime change and the Islam. You know, like there's
Right.
things that have happened that have gotten us to this point. And I feel like when people do understand that, then you can have conversation and dialogue. But if people
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
understand, that's really hard to have conversation and dialogue because they don't have the whole picture.
Right.
It's just like
Absolutely.
not knowing the whole story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
100% agree. So I love that you know, the comedy thing. I remember one time getting out of the hospital and I went straight to a comedy club. I swear to God, like
Oh,
damn
wow.
near. It was like a couple
Yeah.
hours. I was like, let me just change and go to a comedy club because I need to hear something to make me laugh. I
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to hear something that makes me completely not think about what I'm dealing with in
For
my
sure.
life, which was cancer at the time. And I'm a 3-time cancer survivor.
Wow.
Which brings me, we're going to talk a little bit. I mean, because you're so funny and I want people to know she's hilarious. But
Right.
I feel
Wow.
blessed that we're also getting to know a different side of you too, because you have all these amazing, intelligent things to talk about. And I love that you use your comedy to make those statements.
Thank you.
What's been your key focus right now? What is your biggest message out there as far as like,
Get involved and vote in 2020. Oh man, key message. I mean, if I can just open up people's eyes and minds to being open to other cultures and understanding that we have so much that's similar, so many things that are similar, and we all want the same things for ourselves, for our children, for our loved ones. And if we could put, I don't know, certain differences aside as far as, I don't know, you like to do things this way and I like to do things that
Right.
way, but why don't we all come together? And because I feel like there's a reason that people might feel a little bit more, what's the word I'm like, not ignorant, but they are ignorant to other people because they haven't spent time with them.
Right.
Or they're like, oh, you guys do this and that too. It's like, yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
we're human and we
Right.
live in America. So,
Right.
you know, it's like if people could spend more time with people that aren't like them, that don't think like them, and we actually listen, because you've talked to people before where they're just like, they ask you a question, but they're like waiting to jump in because they're like, well, I want to give you my opinion. Oh, that's
Right,
wrong.
right.
They're not listening to what you're actually saying. They just want to tell you why you're wrong.
Right.
I feel like if we could have more of like, let's listen to each other and see like where these issues and fears and all these stereotypes are stemming from, and see like what we can do to all kind of erase that.
Right.
And not to judge people immediately, you know, because I mean, growing up, when, you know, gay marriage wasn't legal, and then people would judge and judge and judge. And then if you actually went and like spent time with a gay couple and you said, oh, it's just a couple. It doesn't, you don't have to say gay couple. It's just a couple.
Yeah.
Like little things like that, little changes like that. If we could all just kind of come together.
I agree. I
and
agree.
spend time with each other. We would see that we're actually all way more similar than we think.
1,000%.
Yeah.
That's something that we push really big here, because I get so frustrated. It's one of the things that led me to write my books. Was I got so tired of the negativity on Facebook that I was seeing, especially during the last election cycle.
Oh yes, just stay off Facebook.
And I got tired of like feeling like I was virtually jumping up and down, being like, we're not like that. Like this is not true. Like this is so out of context, blah, blah, blah. And it's just, you know, and it made me it was a very empowering feeling to go and write my books and push my message. Is that something that you can relate to with what you do? And how do you come up with these things? Like, how do you wake up and say, okay, I'm going to do a video?
Well, for example, because we're talking bridging gaps, the couple man on the street type videos I've done with teaching people Farsi, or showing you phrases that are funny when you literally translate them, or asking people questions in front of the White House. What I was trying to do was, let me show you, I had a group, because we didn't put it on camera, but one of the videos I did in front of the White House, we had a group, I can't remember what they were called, but they were a Christian choir, all women, from the south of Virginia, that came to the White House to pray for the president, who it was Trump at that time. It still is, but I mean at the time that we're videotaping, and they wanted to pray for him and sing for him. So that's what they were coming out of that, and I had caught them, and I asked them, "Where'd you come from?" And then I was asking them, "What do you think of the nuclear deal between Iran and America?" And they were like, and the lady, she became like kind of the spokeswoman, and she said, "You know, I'm not too educated on the subject, so I don't really have much to say." And I was like, well, I can commend that. And then, you know, she kind of asked me some questions of, you know, what I was doing from the White House. And I said, well, do you know any Iranians? And they said, no, I mean, where we're from, we don't have people like that. And then she said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to sound that way. We don't have any Iranians where we live.
Right.
And I was like, no, that's fine. And I was like, so you don't have any Iranian friends? They're like, no, we've never even met an Iranian person. And I said, well, I'm one. And, you know, and they were like, I mean, they were shocked. They were like, she goes, but you're not, your hair's out, and I had a tight dress on.
Right.
And she's like, and your dress, and I was like, well,
and you look sexy.
I was
Wait,
like, yeah,
what?
well, we don't, you know, not all Iranians are practicing Muslims, and not all Iranians or Muslims choose to cover. And we had this whole conversation, and I thought this could have gone a completely different way if I immediately got offended or got hot-headed and be like, what do you mean? Don't you know any better? But it was like, she literally, it's a teachable moment, just like the guy that I said real terrorist.
Right.
They don't know. The intention wasn't evil. So I thought, well, now let me show them that, you know, hey, there's people like us too. We're just normal, everyday people.
Yeah.
So I feel like what I try to do in my own silly, goofy way is, let me show you another side that you don't see on TV all the time, or in the movies, or even in the news, because the news is only showing what the government of Iran might be doing or saying that day, and it's not necessarily showing all the other people. Let me show you in my own little goofy way, like, that we're also like this,
right?
You know, we're not all.
I mean, and all Muslims in general, right?
Yeah, we're not scary, you know.
No, I know. I mean, it's funny that you do, because I respect it. Because even on the podcast, I initially, at the very first episode, I was all hesitant to say the F word, and then I was like, you know, fuck.
Yeah,
it's like good because I was taught, you know. But it's funny. I'm very honest about it. Yeah. Some people like modesty. Yeah. It's funny. I am me, and I'm okay with who I am. But I'm not the person who's judging other people for what they do. But it's so true. What were you going to say?
So you have a really, really interesting career. You've definitely taken a different path that requires a lot of work and a lot of like going out there and kind of finding your things, right? So I'm sure that you have friends that have taken another path and that like are starting families or like getting married, or like they're in another part of their lives. How does that make you feel? Like where do you stand on that?
That's really interesting. I think it depends on what time of the month you asked me that question. And that's a fact. All of my best friends, all, you know, a lot of us were in school at the same time. So like I went into law and I had friends that went into law. Then I have friends that are doctors now. They're optometrists, they're dentists. And it's great when you don't have insurance. And they have the overwhelming majority of my friends that I've grown up with are married and have children. I've been there for the weddings. I've been involved in all the babies, showers, all that kind of stuff. So I always knew though, when I was growing up, I really had dreams of winning awards, being on SNL. I would practice those types of things. So I wasn't really the girl that was dreaming of my wedding dress and my
Love
wedding.
that.
Right.
That doesn't mean I don't want a partner for life and I don't want to eventually start a family and all that. I do want those things, but I think I became honest with myself in the last few years of like, hey, sometimes when you get upset or you think, am I missing out because I don't have that yet? I try not to be hard on myself because if I really wanted that, I would have made it happen by now. I have been in relationships. We have gotten close to those things. And for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. And I know part of it is me. I have self-sabotaged a couple times because I knew deep down, oh, I'm not ready for this and I'm not ready for it with this person.
Yeah.
So I didn't do it. And thank God, because I might have been in a situation where it's split and there's kids involved and all that stuff. So I think the fear of making that wrong decision has kept me from doing it, and then that has also made me feel better when I might get a little bit like, oh man, am I missing out? It's like no, you're not, because if you really wanted to do it, that's how I feel in life. If you really want something, you'll make it happen.
Absolutely.
If I really wanted
There's
to
a
get
will,
married
there's
and
a
start
way.
a family, maybe I would have put more focus on that and I would have done it by now. So I'll do it at some point.
Have you watched Working Moms on Netflix?
I love that show.
You remind me a lot of her because she
Of the
she
main
was
character?
Like, yeah, because
Yeah.
she was like, I do want all these things, but I also want a career.
Yes.
So she's like, I'm gonna put both of them together and I'm gonna make this work.
Yeah.
And I mean, that show is so funny.
It's so real.
And
I love it
yeah.
because I remember my one of my good friends was watching it, and I would walk by and my sister would talk about the show and I would kind of see it in snippets. But I definitely related to her character a lot.
I don't know if you saw it, like the first season where the baby actually latches to her, to her boob. That was her actual child.
Yeah, but can I tell you something about that you're missing out on? Like, I love my kids, and I love all 4 of them.
Yeah.
But it's because I am a mother that I can tell you, you're not really missing out on anything. You know, and I say this, certain things, and look, even marriage, if you weren't self-sabotaging, if you weren't ready, you weren't ready. Because I always say, people are like, life is short. And I'm like, yeah, but it's terribly long if you're miserable.
That's
and
so
be
true.
in an unhappy marriage, and you will understand what that means.
Yes.
Because once you're in it, it's not that easy to get out.
Oh, yeah. It's
Once you have a
expensive.
child, you can't do it.
That's
Very
right.
expensive to get out. They make it really easy.
It's a change. I mean, why go through all these things, especially if you've been married for a significant amount of time, women will get out and feel like, who am I now?
Yeah.
Like, I've been this, even the last name, like when I had to give
Yeah.
up my last name, I was that name for so long. Now who am I now?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and you should keep doing it, because at the end of the day, all that you want, I don't know. I was fertile. I mean, I know, like, I had a baby at 42 years old,
wow.
and I didn't even have to try that
I know a lot of
hard,
women like you, so it does make me
I think when
like,
you don't
yeah,
care,
it's
it's like there's less pressure, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But I mean, what I think what you're doing, I want people to really know that I think you're going to be on SNL. I have no doubt.
Oh,
Yes.
thanks, ladies.
And then we're gonna say we had that
hear
girl
that,
up on.
SNL?
Yeah. We're going to be like, guess what? When you get
hope
on
so.
Bravo and Andy Cohen is interviewing you, that he's going to
love
bring up
Andy
a clip
Cohen.
of this, okay?
I would
He's
love
going to
for
bring
him
up
to
a clip
interview
of this interview.
I hope so.
Manifesting 101.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
All right.
yes.
We've got some rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, let's
All
do
right.
it. Okay.
Who has it easier, women or men?
Men. 100%. Can I elaborate, or are we going to keep going?
You can elaborate.
First of all, I'm just gonna say this. Once a month, we literally have hormonal changes that, like, it's science and it's fact, and we still live our life every day with the pain and all the hormone changes and all the discrimination we have to face and the sexism and misogyny, and we still kind of keep it going, and we do it with a nice little smile on our face. So they have it much easier.
We just stop off and get a Butterfinger at the store.
Yeah, donut, whatever.
Place you want most to travel to.
Place I want to most travel to. The first thing that came to mind was Greece.
Ooh,
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful
place.
islands. I would love to go.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at keeping secrets?
Oh, is 10 the best?
Yeah.
10. I'm a vault.
10? You're a
oh,
vault?
Yeah.
Wow.
100%.
All right. I
You
like
tell me
that.
something, it's not going to go anywhere.
Okay.
I almost
Yeah.
want to tell you a secret now.
You should. Not on air.
Just to test it.
Yeah. I keep hitting the microphone. Sorry.
Would you rather cuddle with a baby panda or a baby penguin?
I would say panda because it's like soft and fuzzy, and I feel like a penguin would be like cold and wet.
And smell like fish.
Yeah, and I hate that fishy smell. Love seafood, hate the fishy smell.
Okay, name 3 of the 7 dwarfs.
Sleepy, grumpy,
5, 4.
sleepy, grumpy, happy, dopey.
Yeah,
Dopey.
there you go.
You got it. She just needed a little push.
I'm just naming myself in the morning.
All right. Where can people go to find you online for our listening audience?
Oh yeah, on Instagram I am Nazanin Nour, and on Twitter I'm Nazanin Nour.
Okay. And if you guys want to see how that's spelled, you have to go watch it on
Yes.
the website, YouTube, Unsugarcoated Podcast with Alia and Alex. And we are wrapping up our very first season. What's been the best part for you so far?
Working with you, honestly, and working with like all of the people that we have bring in. I've learned so much.
I know. It's been amazing. I hope that by the end of all the episodes that people will listen to, that they'll see what amazing value our guests have brought, because each and every one of them has brought value. You have today as well. And we're so thankful to have had you. And with that, people, we will be on a short hiatus, but subscribe, comment, rate the podcast, and make sure you stay tuned, because when we start back up, we're going to be bringing you even more amazing guests.
Our socials are gonna be really updated, and so
Yeah.
you don't miss us too much.
I'll start posting more. Me on Instagram, Alia_unsugarcoated.
And Alex for Alexandra Cheka.
We've been really happy to be your hosts for this season. We look to see you next time.
Hope you guys had fun.
And
As
thank
much
you for
fun
letting
we
us
did.
be unsugarcoated. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Unsugarcoated Podcast with your hosts, Ali Alanias and Alexandra Cheka.